This is the path goal theory, which is chapter 7 of these theories. The path goal theory is all about how leaders motivate subordinates to accomplish designated goals. Drawing heavily from research on what motivates employees, path goal theory first appeared in the leadership literature in the early 1970s. The stated goal of this theory is to enhance employee performance and employee satisfaction by focusing on employee motivation. The path goal theory emphasizes the relationship between the leader's style and the characteristics of the subordinates and the work setting. For the leader, the challenge is to use a leadership style that best meets subordinates' motivational needs. This is done by choosing behaviors that complement or supplement what is missing in the work setting. In path goal theory, leaders provide subordinates with the elements that they think subordinates need to reach their goal. Leadership generates motivation when it increases the number and kinds of payoffs that subordinates receive from their work. It also motivates when it makes the path to the goal clear and easy to travel through coaching and direction, removing obstacles and roadblocks to attaining the goal, and making the work itself more personally satisfying. Briefly stated, the path goal theory is designed to explain how leaders can help subordinates along the path to their goals by selecting specific behaviors that are best suited to subordinates' needs and to the situation in which subordinates are working. Whether a particular leader behavior is motivating to subordinates is contingent on the subordinates' characteristics and the characteristics of the task. The chapter gives a table or a graph explaining the components of path goal theory. It looks like this. Leader behaviors lead to subordinate characteristics, which lead to task characteristics, which then lead to motivation, which is the key to getting subordinates to reach their goals. The chapter gives different behaviors that a leader can have, including directive, supportive, participative, and achievement-oriented. The directive leadership characterizes a leader who gives subordinates instructions about their task, including what is expected of them, how it is to be done, and the timeline for when it should be completed. A directive leader sets clear standards of performance and makes the rules and regulations clear to subordinates. A supportive leader is characterized by somebody who is friendly and approachable, and a leader who includes attending to the well-being and human needs of subordinates. Supportive leaders go out of their way to make work pleasant for subordinates. In addition, supportive leaders treat subordinates as equals and give them respect for their status. Participative leadership consists of inviting subordinates to share in the decision-making. A participative leader consults with subordinates, obtains their ideas and opinions, and integrates their suggestions into the decisions about how the group or organization will proceed. And lastly, an achievement-oriented leadership is characterized by a leader who challenges subordinates to perform work at the highest level possible. This leader establishes a high standard of excellence for subordinates and seeks continuous improvement. In addition to expecting a lot from subordinates, achievement-oriented leaders show a high degree of confidence that subordinates are capable of establishing and accomplishing challenging goals. Path goal theory has several positive features or strengths. First of all, the path goal theory provides a useful theoretical framework for understanding how various leadership behaviors affect subordinate satisfaction and work performance. A second strength is that it attempts to integrate the motivation principles of expectancy theory into a theory of leadership. No other leadership approach deals directly with motivation in this way. A third strength, perhaps its greatest strength, is that path goal theory provides a model that in certain ways is very practical. It shouts out for leaders to clarify the paths to the goals and to remove or help subordinates around the obstacles to the goals. In its simplest form, path goal theory reminds leaders that the overarching purpose of leadership is to guide and coach subordinates as they move along the path to achieve the goal. Now, path goal theory also has several criticisms. First of all, it is so complex and incorporates so many different aspects of leadership that interpreting the theory can at times be confusing. Second of all, it has received only partial support from the many studies that have been conducted on its validity. Not all aspects of the theory have been given equal attention during these studies. But the claims of path goal theory remain tentative because the research findings to date do not provide a full and consistent picture of the basic assumptions and corollaries of path goal theory. The third criticism of path goal theory is that it fails to explain adequately the relationship between leadership behavior and worker motivation. It doesn't describe how a leader could use various styles directly to help subordinates feel competent or assured of success. And it does not explain how directive leadership during ambiguous tasks increases subordinate motivation. Similarly, it does not explain how supportive leadership during tedious work relates to subordinate motivation. The result is that the practitioner is left with an inadequate understanding of how her or his leadership will affect subordinates' expectations about their work. And the last criticism about path goal theory is that it treats leadership as a one-way event. The potential difficulty in this type of helping leadership is that subordinates may easily become dependent on the leader to accomplish their work. Path goal theory places a great deal of responsibility on leaders and much less responsibility on subordinates. Over time, this kind of leadership could be counterproductive because it promotes dependency and fails to recognize the full abilities of subordinates. Now, moving on, we talk about some applications of the path goal theory. How can this be used in businesses today? The path goal theory provides a set of general recommendations based on the characteristics of subordinates and tasks for how the leader should act in various situations if they want to be effective. Also, the principles of path goal theory can be used by leaders at all levels in the organization and for all types of tasks. To apply path goal theory, a leader must carefully assess the subordinates and their tasks and then choose an appropriate leadership style to match those characteristics. This can be done by anyone in the business. And finally, in a much more general way, path goal theory offers leaders a roadmap that gives directions about ways to improve subordinate satisfaction and performance. This sums up the path goal theory, and in closing, I just want to say one more thing, that as this chapter discusses very early on, path goal theory is useful because it continually reminds leaders that their central purpose is to help subordinates define their goals and then to help subordinates reach their goals in the most efficient manner.